Welcome to the One-Year Book of Mormon. A non-Mormon reads through the Book of Mormon. 2 Nephi, Chapter 4. Chapter Overview. This is the final words of Lehi, who then dies and is buried. Then Nephi's wicked brothers get angry at him because he admonishes them, and for that read plagiarizes heavily from the King James. Verse 2 says, "For behold, he," that is, Joseph in the Bible, "truly prophesied concerning all his seed, and the prophecies which he wrote, there are not many greater. And he prophesied concerning us and our future generations, and they are written upon the plates of brass." As with similar statements in the previous chapter, there is zippity-doo-dah evidence of anything like this prior to the writing of the Book of Mormon in English in the late 1820s. Of all the verses in the Book of Mormon I've read so far, I think verse 6 of this chapter is one of the weirdest, and that is saying a lot. Quote, "Wherefore, if ye are cursed, behold, I leave my blessing upon you, that the cursing may be taken from you, and be answered upon the heads of your parents." This just doesn't seem either logical or biblical, nor does it comport with modern Mormonism, at least insofar as they invoke Ezekiel 18:20 to deny original sin. Quote, "The soul that sinneth, it shall die. The son shall not bear the iniquity of the father, neither shall the father bear the iniquity of the son. The righteousness of the righteous shall be upon him, and the wickedness of the wicked shall be upon him." If this verse in Ezekiel is to be taken as a blanket statement of each person bearing the wickedness of his own sin and not the sin of anyone else, and I've seen many a Mormon say this, usually in the context of denying original sin, which of course means that they have to rip this verse out of its context and ignore what it is actually saying. That is, the Israelites were claiming that they were being punished for the sins of the parents, so they didn't need to repent themselves. Then they need to explain how this verse even exists in the Book of Mormon, because it says that the sins of the children will rest on the heads of the fathers. The Bible frequently passes judgment on the children for the sins of the parents, including Adam and Eve and all of their descendants in the form of original sin, plus things like Achan's sin at Jericho, when he stole the gold and silver and clothes, and all of his family ended up being executed for it. And the frequent statement of things like to the third and fourth generation, that certain people groups should be wiped out after the Exodus because of how one or more previous generations of that group had treated the Israelites, etc. But I don't recall any statement in which parents are judged for the sins of their children. How would that work anyway? If the parents are dead when the children sin, how could they take the brunt of the children's curse? Extra punishment in hell? Oh, yeah, that's right. Mormons don't even believe in hell. Starting in verse 16 and going through the end of the chapter, the text is a cobbled-together mishmash of phrases from all over the Bible, primarily from the Psalms, but not limited to them. I'm not going to discuss them verse by verse and give examples of where it came from. I've got a link in the description to my blog post where I do just that. It is very lengthy, but I think worth reading if you want to discuss this with Mormons. The Mormon would probably say that of course Lehi and Nephi were soaked in the Old Testament scriptures, plus they had access to new revelation from God. That would cover any New Testament plagiarism. So that it would be the only natural for them to speak in this way. However, since there is zero evidence of the Book of Mormon prior to Joseph Smith writing it in the late 1820s, the better, far better explanation would be that Joseph Smith was merely incorporating words and phrases from the Bible that he had read or heard in sermons to make the Book of Mormon sound more spiritual. Finally, verses 32 and 33 contain an unusual difference between the modern and original Book of Mormon. The words themselves are identical, but the explanation points in the modern version were all question marks in the original, which does make a difference, a big difference in how it sounds. Further, instead of a dash after "in my way," the original has yet another question mark. Let me show you what I mean. "May the gates of hell be shut continually before me, because that my heart is broken and my spirit is contrite? O Lord, wilt thou not shut the gates of thy righteousness before me, that I may walk in the path of the low valley, that I may be strict in the plain road? O Lord, wilt thou encircle me round in the robe of thy righteousness? O Lord, wilt thou make a way for mine escape before mine enemies? Wilt thou make my path straight before me? Wilt thou not place a stumbling block in my way? But that thou wouldest clear my way before me, and hedge not up my way, but the ways of mine enemy. See how different it sounds when it's read with question marks instead of exclamation points?